Fallout 76, one of the biggest gaming dumpster fires in recent memory, a game that was so poorly received that it has shaken many Bethesda fans to their core and has them reevaluating how they feel about the entire back history of Bethesda titles. For as much flack as 76 gets, there is still a very dedicated community of players out there who love the game and want to see it succeed, which is why I wanted to make this video. I am not one of those people who absolutely hates Fallout 76. In fact, I've actually been a pretty outspoken supporter of the game in the past, but there are definitely some glaring design issues that need to be overhauled if 76 is going to have any real future. The biggest revamp would be the opening of the vaults. If you guys don't know, without spoiling too much about the game, Vault 76 is not the only vault in West Virginia. As of right now, there are 3 other vaults that can be found, and each of them are sealed, and there are currently no quests associated with them. Now, as with all things when it comes to Bethesda titles, there are some glitches and bugs involving these vaults, and as a result, some people can actually get inside of them, but since we're not supposed to be inside the vaults, there's really nothing in there for us to see. After digging around in the game files, fans have found that each of these vaults is going to be involved in a group mission later on, sort of similar to the missions we see at Mama Dolce's up in Morgantown. According to the lines in the game files, one of the vaults is going to send out a distress signal because of a riot that happened in the vault itself. Another vault is said to have suffered a reactor meltdown, and the final vault is going to have a fire outbreak. Now, of course, we don't know too much about the missions themselves because they're not yet in the game, but by the sounds of it, just like everything else in Appalachia, it sounds like everybody inside the vault is going to be dead, which would be a huge mistake on the part of Bethesda. In my opinion, the best way to revamp and save 76 is to have each of these vaults thrive and for their residents to slowly but surely enter Appalachia. They need to form factions, they need to take over towns, and they need to either help or hinder us in our effort to rebuild America. Basically, Fallout 76 needs to have NPCs, and these vaults are the perfect way for Bethesda to implement them. One of the biggest marketing points for this game is that every human we encounter in the world is a living player. Bethesda was very adamant about this because they are committed to their vision of a multiplayer Fallout game, and at first, I must admit, it was a very interesting gimmick. You spend so much time alone and isolated in this game that when you find another player, it's something that you typically remember. As with all multiplayer games, you don't really know what those other players are going to do. They may just wave at you, they may offer to trade, they may help you out on your mission, they may even attack you. You never know what's going to happen, but more often than not, they don't even acknowledge your existence and they just simply go about their business because they want to play Fallout by themselves like they always have. The only time I've ever had a meaningful player interaction in this game is one time when these 2 people decided to kill myself and my brother, and every other time would be when there's a nuked out area on the map. Because of the dense pockets of radiation and the increased levels of the monsters around you, pretty much everybody in these nuked out areas will tend to work together, but aside from that, player interaction really isn't the thing that happens in this game, yet the game was completely designed around that idea. Everywhere you go, there's this overwhelming feeling of isolation, which is true in pretty much every Fallout game, but it's twice as true here in 76 because of how Bethesda designed this game to be. Because they want every big interaction to be with other players, the world itself feels empty, or at the very least, it feels stagnant. I will say, I love Appalachia, I love the locations, the world itself is fantastic, but after a while, it starts to weigh on you, knowing that there is nothing waiting for you on the other side. It's difficult to be invested in the story and the lore of Fallout 76 when you know for a fact that when you go to your destination, there's not going to be anything there. Every time you learn about a new character or a new faction or anything like that, even before you're halfway to that location, you know that you're not going to find the thing that you're actually going there for, and it makes you kind of feel like you're wasting your time. Through various means in the game, we learn about how society did not immediately collapse after the bombs fell. Governments were still in effect, factions formed, some people tried to rebuild society, others tried to take advantage of the chaos, and while this is all really interesting, and we see this all in the game, we don't get to participate in any of it. Everywhere we go, people are dead. Every location on the map is either empty or full of monsters like ghouls and super mutants and robots. It's only been 25 years since the bombs fell, yet every living human in Appalachia is dead, despite what appears to be thousands of them still being alive just a few years before Vault 76 opened. Now, of course, the reason for this is explained through the game's story, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Fallout 76 feels like an empty world. It's a vast, beautiful world that has lots of very interesting locations and interesting lore, but it's still an empty world nonetheless, and after a while, that can definitely weigh on you. That's where the opening of the vaults comes in. Bethesda Bethesda can fill the world with life once again. These Vault residents can go out into Appalachia slowly but surely and over time take over towns, form factions, and add lots of flavor to the Fallout 76 experience while also not taking away from the previous experience. The idea of this game is that we're the first people to enter the world after the bombs fell. We are rediscovering America, essentially, and that can still be true. This is an online game, and all Bethesda has to do is implement instancing like we've seen in countless other games. A great example would actually be World of Warcraft. Make it so once you quote-unquote beat the main story and progress far enough in it that you can actually start seeing the opening of the vaults and the NPCs out in your world, whereas the low-level people, we can have those guys still having the map, not have the vaults be opened. It would really just be that easy. Now, obviously, if they were to add NPCs to the game, it would not instantly take Fallout 76 and make it New Vegas, right? Because we're playing an online game that's shared with other people, there would be some severe limitations as to what the NPCs could do and what we could do with the NPCs. It wouldn't be like New Vegas where pretty much every NPC is killable, because that would severely ruin the experience of the other people in our world and maybe affect their story. What Bethesda could do, however, is introduce factions like we've seen in previous Fallout games. Imagine an online world where factions like the NCR or Caesar's Legion had real players participating. I hate to go back to the World of Warcraft example, but in that game, if you're part of the Horde and you go to an Alliance town, they'll try to attack you because you're part of the Horde in an Alliance town. You could have reputations. There's so much they could actually do with Fallout 76 if NPCs were a factor, and that's the online experience that I was personally hoping for, and that's what Fallout 76 could become if those vault doors open and all of their residents are still alive. Vault 76 canonically had 500 occupants, which means each one of these other 3 vaults on the map could also have hundreds and hundreds of people, which means that slowly over time they could fill the world, they could take over different locations, and basically what Bethesda could do is add free content updates periodically like other online games, and with those updates have the NPCs slowly but surely change Appalachia with us. Now, of course, we're talking about a pretty massive overhaul, and I don't really think Bethesda's going to go that far with it, but it would be a really great addition to the game in my opinion, which is why I wanted to make this video. At first, I was like, you know what? No NPCs is kind of okay. What's really the difference between a static NPC standing there talking to you and you listening to a holotape, right? It's kind of the same thing, really, unless you have interactions available. But man, just over time, it really does weigh on you knowing that there's nothing out here in the world, and there's really nothing to counter that. Bethesda wanted to counter it by having online player interactions be a very big deal, but they're not really a big deal, unless, of course, you're running around to one of the nuked out locations. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here in this video. Those are my thoughts and feelings on Fallout 76 and how Bethesda could save the game, and I would love to hear what you guys think down there in the comment section below. Thank you guys all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.